Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening, guys.
What's up?
How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Good.
Welcome everyone to City Council. I welcome everyone to City Council work session for Monday, November 1st. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
I pledge allegiance to the
to the
flag
flag of the United
States of America
to the republic
and to the republic for which it
stands
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
liberty
with liberty and justice for all.
For all.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Scaringi,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Strawn,
Present.
Councilman Scanlon,
Present.
and President Resnetti.
Present.
That's all 7 here.
Thank you. So first up, we have RL 21-228. I don't see Jared here who's going to be discussing that. Or maybe he is there and I can't see him. Is that him now? Okay. She is. Okay, yes. Jess, hi. Are you doing RL 2228? And
I can, yeah.
Okay.
I can present it if
Okay,
you're okay
go
with
ahead.
that. Okay, great. RL 21-228, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Broome County Land Bank to support its affordable housing program. As City Council may know, about approximately 2 weeks ago, the mayor's office announced an initiative with the Broome County Land Bank to dedicate $2 million of American Rescue Plan funds to the Broome County Land Bank's affordable housing program, specifically our affordable homes program that's focused on rehabilitating existing housing stock and turning it over, selling it to individuals and families who are of low income. And those housing prices and those sale prices would be commensurate with 30% of that buyer or that family's allowable housing allowance is what I should say. So these homes would be affordable to the buyers.
does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. We'll move
Thank you
on
so much.
Yeah, so we'll move on to RL 21-244.
Sophia, this is Chuck. I'll do the pilot agreement.
Go ahead.
This is a pilot that we've talked about a few times that we're just sending down to council for approval. If you guys have any questions, I'll take them.
Guys have any questions for Chuck? Councilwoman Friedman?
Thank you, Madam President. Hi, Chuck. How are you?
Very good.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that I'm looking at this table correctly. So the green column would be, is that how much the company would pay to the city in lieu of taxes?
Not exactly. Let me go through this
Okay.
agreement that I sent you. This is a little bit different than it. It's a little bit different in that the pilot bond payment is an estimated payment that we're going to have to make for what we're anticipating $3 million to put the housing unit on top of the ramp. That would be $161,656 a year. Out of that, the money is coming from 2 different sources. The first source is the air rights agreement. So the first year, all $161,000 of the air rights agreement will go to pay the pilot bond. As it goes down, if you go to 2024, you'll see we'll be receiving $121,373 in air rights. We're also going to receive $40,283 from a pilot payment. Everything in the pilot payment comment column that goes down to the last year, it goes up to $893,862 or $11,388.641 is what the company with the housing units is going to pay to the county, along with $1,250,000 for air rights that will go to the city. As we get down into your green column where it says revised pilot distribution, basically they are going to be sending in $74,000 more than what in 2032 than what the pilot and air rights adds up to, and that amount of money will be amortized to the city, school district, and county based off of their percentages at that time. It's estimated right now the city would receive 32,000, the school district 35,000, and the county 7,000. And in the last year of the pilot in 2051, there'll be 732,206 to be distributed, of which the city would see 318,000, school 342, and the county 71. Hopefully that helps explain it a little bit to everyone.
Okay, yes, that does help me understand. Thank you. I was wondering if you had information about the, if this information is available, the projected profits of the project, or how much of a discount, so to speak, this pilot would be from if the difference between the pilot and like the rate of
I
the
know what you're
regular
asking for.
tax rate
I know what
is.
you're asking for. I do not have that with me, but I can get that for you. An
Okay,
email.
yeah,
That's
that
all
would be
council.
great. I'd love to see those numbers.
I can do
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chuck. Do we have the chief here with us?
He's not, but I'm going to fill in for him.
Well, there you are. I can't see those little things. Hi, how are you? I couldn't
Good,
read
it's
the name up
Lieutenant-
there. Can't see that far away.
That's
Good to
okay.
good to see you. Tell us about RL 238.
Yeah, so this, I'm just going to pull it up here. This is an agreement. This is an MOU, or I'm sorry. This is a grant that we write for every year. It's a parks grant. What it does is it pays for overtime to put police officers in the park. We do Sherry, Lindsay, we do Rec Park, and we do Columbus for this grant. And it totals $30,435.
Okay, any questions? Councilwoman Friedman?
Thank you, Madam President. So I didn't see who actually was joining us.
It's Lieutenant Dave Bidwell from Crime Prevention.
Oh, hi, Lieutenant Bidwell. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Okay, I do have a question about this, and I'm sure that I asked this question, I believe it was last year, and forgive me, I don't remember the answer to the question.
Okay.
But my question is, why is it necessary to pay overtime? Why aren't these shifts in the park included within the regular hours of the police officers?
Yeah, sure. So if you look through the police department as a whole, so just to say this year, what it is our call volume is over 60,000 calls for service, and we are running short on our shifts. So really to do anything extra is pretty much almost impossible. The police officers the parks that are on their post, if time allots, then officers are stopping at the parks that are on their posts. But what this does is it dedicates an officer to be in the park at a allotted block of time on a certain day.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And is there a specific reason why it's billed as overtime and not just regular hours?
So the grant it's billed for overtime because a police officer has to work it not during his regular 8-hour shift. So any officer that is coming in for it is getting paid overtime for it.
I see. So it would be, let's say a police officer works an 8-hour shift and then would do, I'm just making this up, but 2 extra hours maybe on that day or during that shift to
Yeah,
patrol the parks.
I want to say it's typically 4 to 5 hour blocks. So whether they come in after their shift is over or they come in on their day off, it's that they're getting overtime for that.
Okay. And how do you decide which officers will do those extra shifts?
So it gets sent out in an email to the police department. So all the police officers, I normally would put out an email saying, okay, we're offering park overtime on these days during this week at this time. Whoever is interested, please just send me an email. Let me know what days you're interested in. And then we go from there.
Okay. All right, great. That's all my questions. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you, Officer Bidwell.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night. Juliet. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good to see you. You have RL 21-230. Can you tell us about that?
Yep, actually, this is an award that was made to the city of Binghamton for the green infrastructure streetscaping for our Deco District project. And we are just asking city council to allow the mayor to go into that agreement.
Any questions? Councilwoman Riley?
Thank you, Council President. Hi, Juliet. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good, good, good. I see our in-kind contribution. We're allocating 30 of your 40 hours to this project. Is that realistic with all of the other responsibilities you have in terms of?
That's actually been expanded. The grant award is 330,000. So the matching is 33 to 35,000. And that's going to be split between 3 in my office, myself, Tito, Shannon, our new project assistant, and engineering department. So the engineering will have Ron, I think Franco, one senior engineer. So it's going to be spread amongst more people.
Okay. So it's not 30 hours per week. It's a total of 30 hours dedicated to the project. Right. And now, since there will be 5 people then paid out of this grant, right, the in-kind donation will be split amongst you guys.
Exactly.
Evenly.
Over about a year.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Over about a year.
Okay, so they needed a 90-hour. How do we come to the 90 that's on this legislation as we have it?
Well, I could send you, I had to do a more detailed analysis. So we have an actual spreadsheet showing number of hours and, salary and how much that totaled. Okay. So I split, my office is doing primarily the grant management, project coordination, and engineering is doing all the on-site engineering analysis. So I do have that information I can send you. This was just the original, kind of the original cut of how we're going to handle the in-kind. So.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilwoman Friedman, I think you had your hand up, right?
I did. Thank you. I was just wondering if you could explain to us why you're asking for this to be expedited, please.
Well, actually, our response document was due to them October 31st, including finalization of this legislation. All of the Deco District legislation had been approved, and this was a subset of that. I was under the impression that the Deco District award and all the approvals incorporated this, but that was not the case. So I wanted to get this into them as soon as possible. So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, great. Thank you, Juliet.
Yep, absolutely.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Mr. McGinnis, are you there?
I'm here. How are you guys?
Good. You're up next with the RL 21-242.
Yep. We talked about this during budget time. This is just transferring some money around to purchase a new truck and some mowing equipment with the goal of us mowing the city-owned properties and code violations next year.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. And next up, we have Mr. Kruger. Is he here? Oh, there you are. How are you? Doing well. All right. So tell us a little bit about 233.
We're requesting to transfer money from one capital line to another to cover the purchase of a new pickup truck, a Ford Ranger for the water meter department. They've been short a vehicle for a little over a year, and we've doubled up, lengthened vehicles from other departments. But we were able to do some work on our inventories, and we were able to free up some money to transfer over for this purchase.
Thanks. Does anybody have any questions? Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Council President. How are you, Jeff?
Very well. How are you?
Good, good. Now, this I might be a question for Chuck, but I thought we discussed that the city was moving towards leasing because it was not fiscally responsible. Please clarify. I thought we talked about this during, I think when we were talking about Ely Park and the purchasing of machines and trucks for them. Is Chuck still on here?
I am, Angela. You are correct about the Ely Park one with the golf carts and the equipment, but when we buy trucks, we buy them outright. We have a longer life expectancy than a 5-year period with them. But when we were talking about the equipment on the golf course and the golf carts in particular, we leased them.
Okay.
The actual equipment we did on a 5-year lease with a dollar buyout, so we will own all that when we're done. The golf carts, we will not. There'll be a straight lease, operating lease.
Okay. Okay, thank you for clarifying, Chuck. So
Okay.
as a city, we are not, it is better for us to go ahead and purchase a vehicle outright, depending on the department and the use of said vehicle.
I'm going to answer that. Yes, there may be a few cases that may make more sense to lease, but at this point, purchasing vehicles makes more sense.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else have any questions for Jeff? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Dan Merkel. You there?
Yes, I am.
There you are. Hi, how are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Doing well.
So I'm looking to transfer some funds too, also, so that the supervisor that we agreed upon to start in January, to have them start now. Because of the snow shift that's going out there, the seasonal snow shift, they go out the day after, the Sunday after Thanksgiving. They have a lot to do to prepare for the snow. And with him on board, because that's why that's one reason why we went with this position. With him on board and getting settled in before the snow really starts to fly, I think it would benefit all of us.
Any questions? Okay, great. Thank you. That was quick. Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. And up we have Chuck. Chuck, we have what, 5? Let's start with 231.
And just get all these things squared away here.
Okay.
Okay, 231 is to amend the 21 refuse budget to adjust for personal service lines. Basically, when we did the budget last year, we put a negative 25,000 in because we knew we would have shortages during the year. This is just getting rid of that $25,000 deficit so that we have 3 refuse personnel service. There are 2 street maintainers that had partial vacancies for 8,269, 3492, and an MEO at 13,000. So our budget, we couldn't leave that as a negative 25,000 all year. This is washing that out.
Any questions? Next one, Chuck.
The next one is related to refuse again, and this is to spend some of the unspent budget lines on areas that were short. So we're using some money for the street maintainer supervisor that we have left, 13,955. Social Security, workers' comp, and health insurance, which are all under budget, totaling 123,955. And we're using that to spend $63,845 on more blue bags, $110 into postage, and tipping fees of $60,000. The tipping fees are really due to the fact that recycling costs skyrocketed earlier this year, and we're going to be short there by the end of the year.
Any questions? Okay, next one. 234.
234, this is the transfer money out of our flood mitigation reserve fund into a capital line for flood wall pipe inspection and repairs. Earlier this year, we were working with Barton LaJudas on coming up with some designs and ways to do some flood mitigation. And I believe Ron is going to have another RL later on to enter into another agreement later today, but this is moving that 210,400 out of a flood mitigation reserve into a line to inspect and repair flood walls and pipes.
Questions?
Next one is
Wait.
234.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
This is
Councilwoman Riley.
Yes, thank
Go
you,
ahead,
Council
go ahead.
President. So just to clarify, Chuck, the survey that we paid for previously had the recommendations, yet this funding is then going to the actual repair of the flood wall that was mentioned in the survey. We are not going to reassess or do another evaluation of that property again.
No,
Okay, so 100% of this is going towards repair and then further inspection after the repairs have begun.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Chuck, the next one is 243.
243 is an ordinance to amend the 21 budget to fund and allocate American Rescue Plan funds to use for and use general fund balance for premium pay for fire essential workers. This one cannot be voted on until after you vote on the fire contract, which Sharon will talk about later tonight. But if you approve the contract, you need to approve this one.
Any questions? Councilwoman Freeman?
Thank you, Madam President. All right, so my question is that if I'm reading this document correctly, it seems that the police department and the fire department are the 2 departments that are specifically mentioned, and there doesn't seem to be any other departments that are specifically mentioned that were essential workers. Am I correct in my understanding that it says essential workers, but it's just for the police and the fire department?
This one right here is for the fire department. Okay, the essential workers of the fire department.
Okay.
You did approve stuff for the police previously, and you did approve, or you're going to approve for the CSEA for a small amount also.
Right, okay, so that's why those are not listed in
Here.
this document, in this RO.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilwoman Riley?
Yes, thank you. So Chuck, unlike the documents where we've seen some transfer previously, we would see the original balance and the transfer balance. So all we see is increase. So we're increasing using ARPA funds of 985,000
That's
to,
correct. You're increasing the federal revenue line, okay, $985,473. And the money's gonna be spent on 689,000 in fire wages, 52,000 in social security, 203,000 in police and fire retirement. That's all for related to this thing, just fire. And workers' comp of 39,000.
okay, so those are sub bullets of the entire 985.
Yes, the first one is the increase in the revenue, and then you're increasing each one of these expenses below there.
Okay,
And the second group is we're utilizing $161,000 of fund balance, okay, to pay for fire wages of 109, social security of 8, 39,000 for retirement, and 6,000 for workers' comp. These are people that would be over the $101,000 threshold. So we're using fund balance to pay for them.
so essentially we're transferring 985, so it would be transfer from 44089 to the other lines underneath, correct?
If you want to look at it that way, yes.
Okay. And this is based upon what calculation in terms of service? Is this based upon overtime during COVID? Is this based upon, how were these numbers developed?
It's based off of their wages from 2020 for both years, 20 and 21. Their wages based off of 2020.
Okay, for every fireman in the building.
Yes, if they retired, they got prorated. If they started in 20 or 21, they were prorated.
Okay. And if someone, so say we approve the contract that Sharon is going to discuss later, and this is incorporated within, if someone leaves tomorrow, then they are still entitled to this money because they met the contractual agreement.
They would have received the full amount for 20, and they would receive, if they're left tomorrow, they would receive 10/12 of what they were entitled for this year.
Okay.
A couple exceptions to the rule here is people that are on 207. These are firefighters that have been injured and did not work, are not eligible through the ARPA rules.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Moving on to the last one, we have 245.
245 is to enter into a bond ordinance for the Maravito Stadium that we put into the budget for next year. This is basically coming down now to help Major League Baseball know that we're committed to the stadium. And they have to, the work has to be done by the end of next year. So we have to, get the stuff rolling now to make that all happen.
Any questions? Thank you. Are you still with us, Chuck? We have Harold 35.
RL 235 is an ordinance directing the establishment of a City of Binghamton Water Street Development Corporation. This is to set up a local development corporation separate from the Binghamton Local Development Corporation for the development of the Water Street parking garage.
Councilwoman Friedman.
Thank you, Madam President. All right, Chuck, I've got a few questions on this. The first one is, why is a new local development corporation necessary? Why couldn't it be the Binghamton Local Development Corporation?
It could be, but the right thing to do is to set up its own separate LDC that has no assets. If anything was to go wrong, the city's protected.
Okay, and what is this common to create new LDCs?
Yes.
Okay, and would this, the City of Binghamton Water Street Development Corporation, would it do anything beyond just be
It's a single entity, a single purpose entity corporation. This is all it's there for.
So if this project goes through and once it's completed, this LDC won't do anything?
Correct.
It'll be, I guess, not disbanded. I don't know if that's the right word, but dissolved, I
Yes,
suppose.
I think that's a correct answer.
Okay, and my last question is, can you explain why you're asking for this to be expedited, please?
Yes, because I needed you to do the other things the last time. I probably should have brought it down at the last meeting to get voted on today or on Wednesday. But all this, trying to get all this stuff done in a timely basis is difficult, and it would just make life a lot easier getting this thing expedited so that I can get documents signed and get it all formed on a timely basis.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilwoman O'Reilly.
Thank you again, Council President. So Chuck, we talked about this last time, the LDC, and similar to what Councilwoman Friedman brought up, you explained the need for developing this LDC. Who are the board members or the named agents under the LDC?
In the documents that I believe you were sent, I didn't actually see all the documents that you were sent. I only seen bits and pieces. Is the copy of setting up this local development corporation. In there is 4 names that the mayor will appoint, and there'll be 1 appointed from city council.
I'm not sure I received such. So would you be responsible for resending?
I will resend it out tonight.
Thank you. So the mayor, upon execution of this contract, is then going to appoint members to act as fiduciary agents, as board members for this named LDC.
Yes, and it's the same percentage as the BLDC, where he appoints, I believe, 8 out of the 10, and there's 1 from each side of council. This is 4 and 1.
I see Ken is coming off. Are you adding something, Ken?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that. It's basically the same setup as the existing BLDC.
Okay. Now, so my concern though, is we are moving forward with an organization that does not have named board members or agents seated. And this is going to happen before the end of the mayor's term?
It should happen very shortly once we get all the signatures on there. I know I'm on the board. I know the mayor put me on. I can't remember the other ones on there.
I think it's important that council understands who will be representing the
I will send that out to you tonight.
Okay.
As soon as I get done here, I will go email it to you.
Okay, so appointments have been made and accepted. We just don't know. Council does not know who's on the board.
Not until nothing happens until you vote on it and approve it. You will have the information before you vote it on. I thought you had it.
No. Okay, and that's why I was asking before the makeup of this LDC.
And you have the right to see that, Councilwoman.
It's okay. Okay, so we will have that. And so when we have that, we will have the appointments that have been made offer, the people that have been offered appointments.
The proposed appointments from the mayor you will have on that list in the document. I believe it's on page 4 or 5.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Can you tell me, is the mayor appointed to serve?
No.
Okay.
The mayor could, I think, and as well as city council people, as well as employees of the city.
Okay. I look forward to receiving that information. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. There's no other questions. We'll move on to the next one.
Resolution 237 is resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement with the LDC being created for the new Water Street parking garage. As I said, in prior meetings, the LDC will be the owners of the parking garage. We will lease that back to the city, who will sublease it to Laz to manage. All the revenue will generate will come back to the city through that lease agreement.
Any questions for Chuck? Councilwoman Freeman, I think you were first.
All right, thank you. So, Chuck, you said all of what was the word? Not profits. What was the word that you just?
The revenue.
The revenue, thank you. So all of the revenue will go back to the city. But I think that we've been, as we've been talking about the parking garage, we keep saying parking garages don't make any revenue typically. Is that correct?
That is the normal case. We are hopeful that this comes close to breaking even by utilizing some of the fund balance that I've talked to you about before towards this project.
Okay.
Whatever money the BLD or the local development corp cannot pay the debt, the city will be responsible for. But we are hopeful that when this is all said and done, that it will be very close to a break even. One way or
Okay.
the other, a little bit profitable, a little bit of a loss.
Okay. And what would you say is different about this parking garage that makes you hopeful that
We're utilizing $7 million worth of fund balance
Mm-hmm.
to make that a reality.
Okay. So it's not, I mean, the city is still paying quote unquote sort of out of pocket, you could say, for this. But then after that 7 million, we're
Same-
hoping that it'll
Yes,
break even?
similar
Okay.
type thing that we did at 7 Holly Street. I think we used roughly 1.5 million. Plus we got a state grant over there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Riley.
Yes, I can't let this go. So the terms of the LDC, in terms of its composition, it is never being dissolved. It will exist as long as we are in partnership for the ownership of this parking garage, correct?
Yes, I believe you're probably correct. They will own the property.
Okay, which is our agency. So then we would have needed to amend our charter. Am I not correct? Or is this because it's a separate entity? I'm really, without seeing the language of the development of the LDC, and if the city and the mayor are responsible for appointments, then it should be listed within the charter with the terms of said membership and the expectations of said membership.
The said membership is listed in the documents that you should be receiving. I believe they're 3-year terms.
And are they paid?
No, they are not paid.
So then we do need to amend the charter, because then we are now, it is an agency under the control of the city with appointments.
Ken, do you want to answer that
Yes,
question?
please help me.
Ken, are you out there?
Sorry, I had to jump on. Yeah, the BLDC is not part of the charter. These are separate entities created by the city.
But we do mention the appointments for the BLDC. Maybe it's not on the charter.
It will be in the documents you receive. It'll say it's a 3-year term, I believe.
Well, I think that what Councilwoman Riley is referring to is that in the rules of council, you have certain appointments.
Correct.
That's your internal rules. That's not.
Okay. All right. I look forward to receiving this information, seeing that they are responsible for this, the oversight of this major development, and we have no knowledge, nothing. So yes, I'd like to see the terms, the everything about the development of the LDC. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There are no other questions. We will move on to 241, Chuck.
241.
Those are the charter changes, Chuck.
Oh, Sharon, do you have them in front of you?
I don't. I can pull them though.
I'll go get them. I know what one of them is about health insurance and that retirees, if they leave, they can come back once. And once only. We've had people that would bounce in and out constantly. This is basically what we do with the health insurance. If you read F and G, try to clarify it. That is when a retiree retires, they have health insurance if they meet the criteria. A lot of people like to leave and go on their spouses for the first 5 years. Then they can come back on once and stay on it for the rest of their life if they fall off of it. If they decide to leave again, they can't come back.
The other changes are changing the list of management appointed and management tested people because it has to now be consistent with what you have in next year's budget. So for example, the treasurer moved from appointed to a tested position. And we just every year in December, late November, we fix that to be consistent with the next year's budget.
And the other ones, I believe, are health insurance rates for management tested employees.
Well, then, yes, the health insurance on the last one is for management tested, appointed, and elected officials.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Chuck. Oh, nope. Looks like Councilman Riley has a question.
Thank you. Thank you again. This is not really related to this one, but since Chuck is here, I do have a question regarding the essential worker overtime pay. Have you been a part of these emails we're getting about how the city defines an essential worker?
No.
Okay.
Not that I have.
I'm going to forward these to you because I know, because we talked about it a lot with the contracts that we approved last session. There's a group of employees that are also interested in how we are defining it according to ARPA, because they feel left out of the essential bonuses that are being developed. And I know Sharon, I think you're on that email as well. So I think that's something we may need to discuss.
I think, Angela, what we can't do anything with until you approve a CSEA contract.
Okay.
Once the CSEA contract is approved, we can move forward with doing things with management tested.
Okay.
Okay.
But Angela, if you wouldn't mind, just to make sure that we have kind of a complete record of the issues before you, I would love if you could go ahead and forward those to me to make sure that I have them all. I know I'm on a couple, but I don't think I'm on all of them.
Perfect.
So I would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, great. Thank you, Chuck. Oh, go ahead.
Sophia, there should have been an add-on. Lee, do you have that add-on that I brought down this morning? Oh. Okay, doesn't necessarily have to be an add-on. I have a situation in this joint sewage treatment plant. I'm not positive if we have to do legislation on it or not, but we have different parts of the operation being funded through EFC, some through like an 05 project, some through the 06 project. The 05 project is running out of money and there's going to be leftover money in the 06. So EFC has to take those contracts and move the people that are in the 05 to the 06. With that being said, they're not going to do that till December, and the money won't be available to pay these vendors till February or March. I cannot continue to let some of these vendors not get paid that we've been working on getting their contracts closed since 2020 without potential lawsuits coming in. So what I'm asking council's approval on is that I can create an interfund loan, meaning borrow up to $1.5 million from the general fund to pay these vendors out of the HX or capital fund. And then when we get the money from EFC in the February, March time period, pay back the general fund. None of this will increase the cost of the project. It will actually, if we don't do this, very likely that we're going to see some litigation coming out until we do pay some of these vendors. There's been a variety of reasons that we've held off paying these vendors. We're in the process of submitting invoices to get paid, and that's how this all came about.
We'll begin something on that. I'm guessing as soon as possible. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on to Ron Lake. Thank you, Chuck.
Madam President?
Yes. Councilman Scaringi.
Thank you,
You have a
Madam President.
question?
Chuck, just
Yeah,
on
Chuck,
that
hang on.
last one.
Yeah.
Chuck, I apologize.
You're still here.
Yeah.
Hey, Chuck, sorry about that. So just to make sure I'm understanding that correctly, so there are vendors that need to be paid out of the 05 line, but there is a deficit in the 05 line.
There wasn't
There
enough.
will,
There wasn't enough money appropriated in the beginning.
okay, so misappropriation created the deficit, not mismanagement or something like that.
Yes, I mean, it was just,
Okay.
you know, we were doing estimates when we did these
Sure.
things back in 16, 17.
Yeah, no, I'm not knocking that. There's always going to be a variance on estimations like that. I get that. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding from the influx of funds that we will get in the February, March time period of 2022. You're saying your estimation is that those funds will be enough to both A, cover that deficit from the 05 line, and B, not impact any projects related to the 06 line. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct.
Awesome. So that doesn't, there's no increase, if you will, in the total number of dollars being spent in the end. So the interpersonal loan from the general fund is just to tide that over or connect that bridge, if you will, to make sure that vendors are paid in a timely fashion.
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure I got that. Thank you, Chuck. Sorry about that.
Gio, I'll expand off that too. Before we pay a bill, EFC is going to review the invoice and make sure it's proper and that they're going to pay it.
Correct. No, that makes sense. Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, thank you. So we don't have Ron here.
Excuse me,
Hi.
President.
Yeah. Oh, Council. Sorry, I didn't see you.
That's
Chuck,
fine.
hang
Then
on.
turn my camera on.
Is this for Chuck?
Yes.
Okay. We're not gonna
Chuck, are
let
you
you go.
still there?
He's turning around. Yes, it's here. Okay, go ahead.
Chuck,
Tom.
do we need any type of approval from Johnson City for this?
I'm going to council. I'm going to go talk to them. I don't think we need any approvals on anything, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to go talk to them tomorrow night at their meeting.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom, the answer to that would generally be no, because these are construction and we're the lead agency on the construction. When we do professional services or budget amendments, we would do that. So this is a budget amendment. Yeah, Chuck, I apologize. Yeah, we would need Johnson City as a budget amendment.
So we would or wouldn't?
Yeah, no, I apologize. Now that I'm thinking about it, as if we're moving the funds, Chuck, are these all in our budget? Or is this part of the bond?
This is all part of our budget, part of the bond
Right.
process. So if we pay $1 million, EFC will send us 540,000, send Johnson City 460,000. They're obligated to pay us, just like that's what they're getting the money for.
So we'll get their approval on it.
All right, thank you.
Okay. You can go now for real this time. I think so. Okay, hi, how are you?
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Good, good. So you're here for Ron.
I'm here for Ron. Ron's not here. I am Franco in the city and I'm Ron's assistant.
Good to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Okay, tell us about RL 21-246, please.
That's the one with Shoemaker, correct? Because there's one of them that got at, one of them. Okay. Okay. So that one, I believe, has been canceled.
Oh,
So the next one, I believe, is ours. Oh, there should be one for Shoemaker Engineering in there.
all right. So we have one that says supplemental agreement with Barton and Judas for the flood control project.
Yes, that one's been canceled.
Okay. And then the other one is 247, authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with Shoemaker for surveying services.
Yes, that one is actually tied to the one that got canceled, which got approved back in January of 2021. That's surveying services for the design and the construction documents to go along with all the Army Corps and the DEC's inspections back to 2019. We have to do those. That's part of their inspection of our flood walls and levees.
Councilwoman Riley?
Yes, thank you, Council President. So please clarify for me, this approved contract has been canceled or has been revised because portions have been completed and updated?
I believe it's been revised, Council.
Okay, because there are endpoints that we've fulfilled, we've met, and there were dates in the future. So are we no longer working with this plan as detailed by Barton and LaJudas?
We are working with that plan. Unfortunately, through the COVID and the change in the engineering department, we did not secure Shoemaker to do the surveying services for us. So the surveying services will join hand in hand with what Barton and LaJudas will be putting together as a design and construction documents.
Okay. So this document, this RL before us has been canceled, and we will see new legislation with a new contract. Will there be significant changes in terms of the deadlines and fees as approved in this document that was canceled?
Councilman, I think that one needs to be revised. Earlier tonight, I believe Chuck came to the work session and had to move some money for the flood walls, correct? That was in earlier, and that's what this is all tied into. But Councilman, some of those dates on there obviously have been pushed back because we haven't started the work, but we're in the process. And that's why we need the, we would like the Shoemaker agreement to be approved.
So when I asked earlier, would this require a new reassessment by the new entity? We were told no. So they're going to use the plans that were canceled by Barton and LaJudas to fulfill the necessary work per the time frame and then evaluate.
I don't know. I don't even think she knows what she's talking about.
I'm
What
sorry.
project is this for?
Chuck? Is that you
Yes.
talking? Is that you
Right.
talking?
Yes.
Okay.
So who doesn't know what they're talking about?
This is, I was talking about something else on this. Angela, I'm not sure exactly what you were saying here about, are we talking about, there was a Barton LaJudas contract that was signed back in January, February for $211,400. Nothing was worked on that, to my knowledge. Is that the one that you're talking about?
I'm talking about the one we were just informed was canceled, which is 21-246. That was originally, it was originally approved in 2019, but then subsequently revised.
Franco, do you know what Councilwoman Riley's
So 10
talking?
minutes ago, Mr. Franco said 21-246 has been canceled.
Yes. 21-246 was a Barton LaJudas contract that you guys, meaning council, approved in January or February for $211,400.
And it has subsequently been canceled.
No, that contract has not been canceled.
So
So is it
Councilwoman,
revised or can't? I think
It-
we're a little confused regarding the
It's-
language.
It's gonna, 21-246 is gonna be revised at the next meeting.
Okay, revised.
Councilwoman Riley, the RL was canceled, not the contract. The RL was mistakenly submitted.
Thank you for clarifying.
This is Maggie, by the way.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you, Maggie.
Thank you, Maggie. Okay. Any other questions? Maggie, you took care of that. Any other questions for Maggie or anyone? Okay. Thank you. And lastly, we have Sharon with RL 21-239 union contract.
Good
Hi.
evening. Hi.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
I see that they've placed me at the end of the agenda, so I'm going to take a hint and try and make this as short as possible. I wanted to have council a brief update. I received notice today that the mayor served notice on management tested employees that they will be receiving the $2,000 stipend provided council approves the CSEA contract as part of their compensation. So I know you guys asked about that last time I was here on CSEA. So moving to our fire contract, this contract is for 2021 through 2024. We have approximately 113 firefighters in our employment at this time. Fire, like CSEA, took a 0% increase in 2020. I'm going to move through the contract in the order of the pages that they appear because it is clear to me that's probably easier for council to follow. Like the other contracts I've presented, go ahead, Aviva.
I apologize for interrupting you, Sharon. But I'm looking at my packet now, and it says that there's additional information to the RL attached, and that's the last thing in my packet.
So I think what happened, and actually it was circulated along with the packet in a separate attachment because the size of what the original PDF for tonight's work session was so large, they attached it as a separate attachment in that email. So actually you got two. If you go to the city website right now, do you see that?
Yes, I do. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, no problem. I noticed that as well when I double checked to make sure council received it. And if anybody else does not have it right in front of them, if you go to the website right now, it is an attachment to the work session agenda also posted for public.
Sharon, I just sent it to everybody.
Okay, thank you. So as I was explaining before, I'm going to go kind of briefly through the contract. Like the previous contracts that I've presented, the city updated the language with regards to Janus to make it consistent with dues deduction based off of the Supreme Court's decision. We added the federal holiday of Juneteenth.
There were a number of codifications of present practices, including with regards to this work schedule of firefighters, light duty, in the sense that firefighters, instead of working 24-hour shifts on light duty, can work 4 10-hour days per week, which gives them 1 day a week to be able to go to their medical appointments unless other accommodation is required. A codification as to how vacation time is used, including that firefighters may swap. One of the additional benefits granted under this section is that firefighters in year 1 used to have 0 vacation days. Now, if they work for us for 6 months, they get half, and after 1 year, they have 1 full vacation. I should say 1 day after 6 months and 1 day at the end of that first year. There's also a codification of our practices with regards to personal leave time. You'll find that on page 11, as well as the way that we do leave time benefits for 207A. 207 is like comp, but for firefighters and police. That's what happens when they get injured on the job. There's a notification of that civil service test scores are public information. You'll find that on page 6. There's a clarification on relevant providers' notes for return to duty work on page 9. With regards to health insurance increases, it's been one of the mayor's priorities to get these numbers up in order to reduce taxpayer liability and expenses. So in a similar fashion, for the PPO, there's a gradual increase where the firefighters will be paying 18% on the PPO at the end of 2024 and 20% on the Classic Blue at the end of 2024, which is the more expensive plan. We also clarified when health insurance begins and ends. That is with the first day and last day of employment for our firefighters. We also cleaned up the language with regards to the uniform allowance and added a provision with regards to a requirement that firefighters return clothing that bears City of Binghamton insignias so that they are only worn by City of Binghamton employees. We've also made sure that the language in the fire contract is changed to gender neutral. There is a provision in our fire contract, you'll find it on page 17, with regards to a fire labor management committee. And the committee's purpose is to have regular meetings or occasional meetings to discuss labor issues, which might include fitness or other types of concerns that arise during the duration of the contract term. We added a requirement that this committee, joint union and city, must meet twice a year. Before, there was no requirement that they meet any minimum meeting requirements. And in fact, they've never met since the beginning of this provision. So that added some teeth into that. We also enabled our firefighters after 20 years of service to opt out of serving as a paramedic. This is something that is onerous, hard, a lot of vicarious trauma associated with that. And due to the city's commitment, particularly Mayor David's commitment to turning the department into an all paramedic organization, we are able to subsidize our firefighters with 20 years of service having the ability to opt out. With regards to the salary increases, there was a freeze of the salary grid, particularly for firefighters with 60 months or less of service. Their salaries had not been increased over the course of 2 contract seasons. So before we add any percentages, we upped those amounts in the grid. You'll find the grid on page 18 by $2,000 for those lower level employees, those firefighters with 60 months or less, before we actually did the percentage increases across the board. Bear in mind, because firefighters took a 0, we're really looking at salary increases over 5 years rather than 4 years. So in 2021, the parties agreed to a 2% increase with no retroactivity. Therefore, they will only receive an increase for essentially November through December to the end of this year. In 2022, a 2.25% increase. In 2023, a 2.5% increase. In 2024, a 2.25% increase, coming to 9% over the life of the contract, which amounts over a 5-year contract term to 1.8% per year.
very similar to police. And as I presented to you, I think any employer should be happy with a less than 2% increase per year. We also added, similar to police, a fitness stipend. This pilot program will begin in 2024. It's a $300 payment payable on December 15th. It's not added to base. And they have to pass a relatively onerous fitness test called a CPAT. And that's the test our firefighter recruits have to take before they are accepted into the Binghamton Fire Department. So we anticipate we're going to have a relatively small amount at the very beginning. So it's an estimated cost per year at this time of $12,000 beginning in 2024. We also increased the incentive for the associate's degree for very specific categories that have a nexus to firefighter employment. That is fire science, paramedics, and emergency management. We estimate the total cost of that increase per year was going to be about $3,000. Therefore, the total amount of salary, stipend, and associate increase plus FICA, plus 207, plus comp, plus retirement is approximately $1 million over the life of the contract. It's a total cost to the taxpayers. Additionally, due to the vicarious trauma that our firefighters experience, please bear in mind our firefighters spend approximately 80% of their time working in the medical field, assisting on emergency response calls, bringing people back from death. Therefore, we've created a peer support fund for them to be budgeted every year in the city's budget and dispersed to this group at the discretion of the fire chief of $5,000 per year. This is not for pizza. This is for classes and group support. Turning to the issue of premium pay, I know you have another RL in front of you right now that must be passed contiguously, or rather these two are not mutually exclusive. They must be considered together. The city proposed and firefighters agreed to 4.5% based off of their total compensation in 2020 for both 2020 and 2021. Councilmember Riley asked about whether or not everybody gets it. In order to qualify for premium pay under this section, and I'm going to go, it's on page 19, those firefighters must have actually worked during the COVID-19 pandemic, which began in March of 2020 to the end of the state of emergency. And the parties recognize, I'm going to read out loud from it, that all members who were actually available, who did actually work and were actually subject to the risks of COVID shall be entitled to premium pay regardless of rank or status, because they were and are exposed to additional risk due to the pandemic and the ongoing health emergency. And if a member did not work and was not subject to the COVID-19 hazard, the example Chuck gave was 207A, they're not going to be entitled to such hazardous duty pay. We did confirm with New York State that not only is this ARPA eligible, but it's also potentially pensionable. I should say it is pensionable for our firefighters. We had the most amount of exposures, I should say direct positive cases in the fire department due to their exposures to members of the public who had COVID. It exposed themselves and exposed their families. And to this date, we do not know what the long-term effects of those exposures are. Lastly, you'll see in the salary section an annotation with regards to Tier 6. What is that? So back when the city was negotiating its contract in 2012, I should say, in the middle of the contract season, New York State changed the rights that employees have under Tier 6. Tier 6 is our retirement, I should say, New York State retirement system classifies employees into various tiers. Under Tier 6, while your average final salary is computed based off of your last 5 years of employment, not your last year of employment or your last 3 years of employment. So it deviates dramatically from the other tiers. Those firefighters at the time they negotiated that contract, as well as the city, believed that they would be entitled to a 1-year final average salary based off of their last 1 to 3 years of employment. Unfortunately, New York State changed that benefit during the contract negotiations, and there was some good faith confusion on both sides with regards to whether or not members of Tier 6, that retirement classification, would be eligible for benefits.
As a result, the firefighters, when they discovered, or I should say the union, when they discovered this issue, filed suit against the city in the form of arbitration. Therefore, this provision with regards to Tier 6 settles both the arbitration and provides compensation under the contract to that classification of firefighters originally covered. That's all firefighters in Tier 6 hired prior to today's date. The total amount is about $39,000 per year, about $1,000 per firefighter per year. Through 2028, that'll be used as a fund. If New York State changes the rules, that fund can actually go to assist funding final average salary for Tier 6. If it doesn't, the firefighters can ignore those various amounts to their benefit up to about $4,000 per year. It'll be put in an interest-bearing account, and the city keeps the remainder plus the interest after 2028. Not to make anybody's head explode, but we go out over 20 years, and therefore the provision sunsets in 2046. Does anybody have any questions?
No questions? You did a great job, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions, as you know, by phone or email between now and when City Council will see this again at the business meeting on November 17th.
Madam President?
Yes, Councilman Swearingen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Hey, Sharon, how are you?
I'm well, Gio. How are you?
Okay, good. Thank you again so much for that very succinct summary. Just two quick questions. The first one was with respect to the update that you had provided about the management tested positions. So that is a go with respect to the funding?
With respect to the stipend.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And the second one was, I think about maybe a third or a half of the way in, you were talking about some of the reasons why a Binghamton firefighter may or may not be in the position to get the hazard pay from ARPA. I don't know if this is an example that is cited in the ARPA rules or not. Let's say, for example, one of our firemen was working during that time, and I know a number of our firefighters are in the Army Reserves or the Navy Reserves or something like that. If they were activated and put on Title 10 active duty orders, does that impact that in any way?
No, it doesn't actually, because under USERA, based off of their rights under Title 10, that mandatory active duty status, the city has to provide firefighters, I should say, has to provide those called to active duty with the same benefits provided to employees at the city at that time. We did not have any firefighters who were on active duty at that time. For anything longer than what would be your normal month-long training period or those weekend training periods.
Yeah, like the 2-week annual tour or something like that. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But we would absolutely be obligated, if somebody served in the military, to provide them with the same rights as if they were here per USERA.
Definitely. No, I appreciate that. I just wanted to double check on that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. And if there are no other questions, thank you, Sharon. We'll move on to pending legislation.
Okay, we have 8 items for Wednesday evening on the pending legislation. Does anybody have any questions on any of these?
Okay. So there's no questions, and I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting then.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Good night.